With me now, Paul Beckford from the Stop Heathrow Expansion campaign. So I don't need to ask you where you're coming from on this, but I do need to ask you whether the proposals for limiting the number of night flights and the proposals to bring this in gradually mitigate in some way the argument against the whole expansion.
I'm not sure that they mitigate it in that regard. What it's doing is because that's down the financeability of this. Heathrow are doing that in stages because it makes it more affordable for them. I think to do it in one foul swoop, they wouldn't be able to do it. And I think the key point here is the sheer scale of what they're proposing. It's not just bolting on a runway to the existing airport. It's literally dropping a whole new airport with all the associated infrastructure, fuel depots, hotels, shops as well. So there's now 30 years of blight, not just the 5 that was proposed and what MPs voted on last year.
You describe it as blight, and we'll come to that in a moment. Others describe this as opportunity. The country needs it as an infrastructure. It's a project that will actually provide many jobs. There are huge positives to this.
Well, potentially, but I think actually if you look at the work that the government's done on this and the updated economic appraisal that accompanied the national policy statement, they showed that over a 60-year period, when you include the costs as well as the benefits, so not just the growth to GDP, but the costs in terms of the environment, you're looking at potentially $3 billion over 60 years, and actually there's even the risk there's a cost of up to $2 billion, minus $2 billion to the economy as a result of this proposal.
Do we work on the basis that things can only get better in terms of impact on the environment, that planes will get quieter, that they will become economically better value and less damaging to the climate?
Well, I think there's been some great work done by the fellow travellers and the Flying Less who looked at the proposals for electric aircraft and those that are currently in manufacture and those planned, and they're looking at that about 15% reduction in carbon emissions from electric flights, and that will probably be on short-haul flights, which we should probably be taking trains for anyway. For the transatlantic traffic, there's nothing in the pipeline that's feasible that will be able to deal with that problem at the moment.
Much of the carbon produced is from the cars travelling to the airport. This is something that they are aiming to target: better public transport, easier access, less need to drive to the airport.
I think that's very noble, but they should probably put their money where the mouth is. They've currently got a target.
Well, they sort of are, aren't they? I mean, this isn't a cheap project.
It's not. But for the surface access that you talk about, they've got a target of 45% of the travelling public accessing the airport by this year. They only hit 41%. So I don't think anybody can have any faith that they'll hit the targets of 45, 50 and 55% by 2030 and 2040, as the national policy statement indicates.
It must be awful for anybody whose life is directly affected by this. And isn't there an argument to say, look, let's just whatever the decision is, let's make a decision. So those that will be blighted can act now. They've got time to do so.
Well, I think having information is important, but the way that the Heathrow engages with some of the local communities is quite aggressive in some instances, and I think just knowing that it's coming doesn't make it any better. You're talking about 800 homes being destroyed, another 3,000 rendered unlivable. The destruction of communities that have been there for a long time. So just because you know that something's going to happen doesn't make the pain of it any more bearable.
Is there anything good in the proposal?
Well, there's thousands of pages of documents associated with the expansion proposal they put out today, so perhaps there's a nugget in there that I haven't been able to dig out just yet, but I'll have to wait and see about that.
In terms of the argument for a third runway, have they won that argument per se?
I don't think so, no. I think there's strong arguments, particularly in the climate emergency we're facing, and Parliament's now declared a climate emergency, that we should be making better use of existing runway capacity. Manchester only uses 50%, Birmingham 40%. So there's runway capacity there. To lock it all into the southeast will direct further public capital into London and the southeast, and we could be spending that in other more valuable projects elsewhere.
There was one local MP who said he would lie in front of the first bulldozer that tried to do this. He could be the next Prime Minister.
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
He apparently has changed his mind.
I'm not sure that's true. What was reported was that he was asked about it, and he said that Parliament had voted for the proposal, which is true. I think that was a statement of fact. Everything that I understand, that he's still committed to opposing it, but that's something you'd have to put to him at the appropriate time, perhaps later this evening.
If it was me doing it, I'll pass it on to Emily, but I think she might be a bit busy. But it's good to see you, Paul Beckford.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
You're watching Afternoon Live. These are our headlines this afternoon. The next stage in the contest for Tory leadership and